one of the most intriguing things about today's dating climate in 2025 is how, with a toughening economy and with a day to day living reality that's becoming harder and harder for most Americans, I don't really see a movement of women loosening or adjusting their relationship standards to be more realistic and to be more understanding of economic hardship that people are passing through. I don't see a ton of women saying, you know what, this whole men need to pay all the bills, that is so 1950s, 1960s. That's way long ago. We live in a different reality and it is fine. We can split the bills. It's more important that we learn to work together. It's more important that we learn how to build a reality and, quite frankly, come together as a team so that we can navigate the current setup. Like, I don't really see that a ton. Yeah, I'm seeing videos here and there, but there does not seem to be a mass movement of women who are willing to loosen their standards. In fact, I continue to see women push more and more towards this hyper fantastical luxury lifestyle, whether it be through hypergamy, whether it be through promoting the sugar baby lifestyle, which is becoming a lot more popular, whether it be through the promotion of age gap dating, and particularly interracial age gap dating. I don't see a lot of Black women promoting age gap dating with Black men, but primarily age gap dating with old white men, right? But I'm seeing these different movements of women who aren't necessarily adjusting their desires or adjusting their standards. I see more ladies doubling down. And I ran across this video, which I thought was a perfect example of the mentality that some ladies are having today. Again, I'm not going to say that this is every woman, but a significant amount of women are hell bent on getting what they want, so much so that they would rather die struggling versus adjust their standards and actually find something meaningful. That's my opinion. But without further ado, let's look at what this lady has to say. I think she represents a lot of ladies, and we will get into it.
If you thought marrying for money was like an issue, wait till we look at the next few years, baby. That student loan, they real serious, ain't they? They haven't been saying they're gonna report to the credit bureaus, but now they are. And now people's payments are going way up. I just submitted my forbearance again. Hopefully they say yes, because where's the money gonna come from?
Okay, real quick, I just want you guys to acknowledge that she is acknowledging that she's not in a financial situation to be able to afford her own bills. She is actively saying this. Now, I want you guys to flip the script. Imagine a reality in which a man comes online and basically openly acknowledges that he doesn't have the money or the capacity to afford his own bills. I just want you guys to keep that in the back of your mind. Keep that in the back of your mind.
And it's wild that they are literally about to start garnishing people's checks. Like, that's crazy. And you still expect me to talk to you without you sending me money first?
Wait, what?
Have you seen the price of eggs?
Y'all see what y'all see? Y'all see? So it's not, dang, the economy is beating me down. It's really rough out here. The economy is coming for everybody. It's not, as a result, I need to adjust my standards a bit. You know, this is not the kind of society that provides for that setup realistically. So I'm gonna adjust and I'm going to focus on what really matters and maybe find a way to build a life with somebody or work with somebody. It's not that. It's no, I'm doubling down. I'm acknowledging that I cannot afford my own bills. And I'm also implying that I need a man who can afford my bills for me. That's the implication. And this to me is wild. But you know, the interesting thing about it is why it is very clear that men and women are not the same. This lady, by and large, people really aren't going to judge her as lazy. You may have some people in the comments by and large, but like, nobody looks at women who are, generally speaking, society does not consider women who are looking for men to pay their bills as lazy. I mean, you have the whole hypergamy movement, and there is generally expectation that the most attractive women are going to be able to find men to pay their bills, to cover them. Like, men and women are generally in agreement with that like, yeah, The best of the best, the most attractive or the most elite women have been paying their bills, and those women are never considered lazy. So she sat there and said, I basically can't afford my own bills, but no one is looking at her and being like, oh, you're lazy. Most people are not going to consider her as lazy. They're going to say, oh man, the system is hard. If you have a child or two, whatever, that's why. But if the roles were reversed and we had a man go online and being like, I can't afford my own bills, the same level of consideration or empathy does not exist. They're going to judge that man and be like, well, why can't you afford your bills? Or if you can't afford your bills, you don't need to be dating. And that right there is a prime example of how and why men and women are not the same, and they are not treated the same. Even in this post-feminist or feminist society, however you want to look at it, they are not treated the same. They are not socialized the same. They are not seen the same. And women still want men to take care of the bills, even while they themselves pursue the life that is the most desirous to them. That's what's so intriguing about today's dating market. Let's continue.
Have you seen the price of groceries? Exactly, Salem, tell him. He told me to hurry up with his food, but hold on. You know, people used to literally look at me like I was crazy when I said that, like, love will never be enough for me. You are going to have money as well. Like, you need to fit all of my criteria and have enough money for savings and retirement and disposable income.
Another interesting thing about this, I don't necessarily know where women go off getting these expectations about what men need to do. Let's just say it's modern culture. Let's just say it's society. Let's just say it's the natural hypergamous nature of women. Fine, not a problem. And listen, I'm not even here to judge this woman for her standards. She has the right to have whatever standard she wants. She can say, I'm not going to date or marry anything less than a millionaire. That is her right. I always like to say, however, that the market decides. If a woman's standards are at the point to where nobody reaches them, then she gets to decide whether or not she holds on to those standards, even unto death, or whether or not those standards might be unrealistic for what she is offering. And only a woman knows that. But this conversation is interesting nonetheless. Let's continue.
Like, to be honest with you, I don't see the point of marriage if you're not making my life any better. There's no point to me, because everything you can get in a marriage, you can get outside of it.
Okay. I don't see a point of getting married unless you're making my life better financially. And this is, to me, obviously, does not sound like a woman who has any understanding of what marriage is. Marriage is not just like a financial contract. And if you see marriage as a financial contract, then it's better to not marry, because it's one of the worst business deals you can get into if you're looking at it through that lens. If a woman doesn't understand the value of raising children within the context of a family and a committed relationship, that I mean, to me, I'm not going to sit there and try to convince you. It is what it is. Not everybody is meant to be a wife. And this is a prime example. It doesn't sound like she's particularly interested in being a wife outside of financial setup. And at that point, it is not wifedom or wifeliness or anything. That's more akin to prostitution in my understanding, or at best, just a business contract, a very poor business contract. It's so interesting to me that how a lot of ladies today have all these ideas about marriage and all these ideas about what marriage is when they never experienced it. It's not like she's saying, like, I've been married before and I've experienced this and it's not for me. That'd be a whole different conversation. Okay, granted. But if you know everything about marriage but have never actually been into it, then how do you really know? Where are you getting these ideas from? Who are you listening to? And we know, just statistically, whenever there's children involved, when there's two parents there, long term, the children does better off, period. In the discussion, they just do. The children does better off in a two-parent household versus a person trying to do it themselves and then having to navigate the dating and mating market. That's just a statistical reality. I don't know how else to spin it. Of course, we all want to point to the exceptions where the child does phenomenally well, ends up being an NFL player, NBA, or whatever. That does happen. But that is minority, not the majority. And I think ideally, if a person can raise their family and be in a stable scenario where they have support for the child and even themselves and can build, why? I don't understand how that is not a better deal than doing things alone. But that's just my perspective. Let's continue.
Prove me wrong. What can you not get inside of a marriage you can't get outside of marriage?
Yeah, so again, I always find it so interesting how ladies have a lot to say about something they've never experienced. I'll leave it at that.
Exactly. Exactly. And technically true, I can still get money outside of marriage, but that's just that's my main big one that I will never, ever, ever, ever compromise on. People been like, Destiny, no, you should stop. You're not gonna find anyone. Okay, well, great. Then I guess I don't ever find nobody, and I will be.
Yeah, she says, I'm not going to compromise on my financial standards. And I don't think any woman should be forced to try to compromise her standards. She has the right to hold on to them. She just also has to be willing to suffer the consequences associated with it if nobody is able to live up to them. And it sounds like she's okay if no one ever lives up to her standards. And at that point, it's not a problem. Not a problem.
Be by myself, and I have to force now my 2 babies to make money for me. Maybe I start a little pet account. That might be cute. Yeah, but no. And you think I'm ever gonna change my
What? I'm gonna assume that as a joke because a woman's backup plan who does not, in my opinion, if you're a woman who decides that you are not willing to get with a man or not willing to work together with him, your retirement plan shouldn't land on your kids. There should not be an expectation that your kids make up or basically end up being your quasi husband or having to take on the responsibilities that a husband should have done. That should not ever be a requirement, ever. If a woman wants to be single and raise kids by herself, completely and totally fine. I believe that the child should still have the capacity and the ability to live their life without the burden of having to be their parent's surrogate spouse. That is highly toxic and very, very, very damaging to the child if they feel like they have the burden of taking care of their parents because the parents didn't want to take care of themselves and do what was best for them. Super toxic. Now, I'm hoping she was just joking. I'm really hoping that was just a joke. But in general, I actually know a lot of adults who feel that pressure. They get to a certain age and their parent honestly didn't do what they were supposed to do as far as taking care of themselves, or their parent just honestly never had healthy boundaries and always put expectations on the child that the child has to give for them or the child owes them back. And I'm like, there's a difference between giving your parents honor, honoring your adults and honoring elders and doing what you can. There's a difference between honoring them versus putting your life on hold, sacrificing your life and not living your life because you're trying to basically fulfill a dream that they never lived, or because you're so busy trying to satisfy their unrealistic, ungodly, or just unwholesome expectations. Like big, 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 big difference. And I don't think any child is supposed to sacrifice their life or sacrifice what they're supposed to do just because their parent was irresponsible. Big difference between honoring your parents and doing right by them, then allowing their toxicity or allowing their bad boundaries to now impact you in such a way that you can't even experience or live your life. Big difference. Let's continue this.
They're literally at my door asking for these bills that I don't have. You think I'm gonna date you and you make less than me? Goodbye. 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 Ooh, ooh. No, you got the wrong one. Wrong one. Try again.
Okay, honestly, with this kind of attitude, if this is how ladies want to do things, I am not mad at men who on the first date want to ask a woman how much she weighs or want to ask a woman her dress size. I really am not. If you have women who are going to be this aggressive about their monetary standards, then men who meet those monetary standards, which by the way we know are rare, I am not mad at them if they have weight or if they have size requirements. I'm really not, because at that point, like, the whole thing is transactional anyways. It is a business deal, so both parties need to make sure they get whatever is out of it. And if a man looks at her and it's just like, listen, you may have these expectations, but I need somebody who's at least a size 5 or 6 or 8, whatever. I need somebody who's at least in single digits. I am not mad at it, because if we are looking at things transactionally, then when a woman has all these things that she wants, that's fine. We cannot be surprised if men enter the conversation and start putting the same demand. And that's when ladies really start to get upset. That's when ladies start to throw out all this misogyny, misogynoir, or well, man, I've never had a problem getting with men. You're just a broke dusty or you're gay. When men start coming up with these standards too. That's when you start seeing all the bashing. But to me, the biggest concept is like you're not supposed to look at these things transactionally. And if your conception of relationship and marriage is purely financial, then you should not get married. You have no understanding of it. And if your conception of relationship period is purely financial, then you also don't understand even relationship period, in my opinion. And this is why I think a lot of people struggle. But I would hope that a toughening economy would cause people to be a little bit more humble or reflective. But I understand for some that it's also a space to double down on their expectations, even if they are, in my opinion, unrealistic or super high. But anyways, what do y'all think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down in the comment section. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far. And we'll talk later, okay? Bye.